To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados de las
This here's
puertas.
a wild ride in the wilderness.
When indiscreet doors change.
So today on Miles from Main Street, we are doing some armchair imagineering with the Conservation Station. This is that little, you take a little train ride over to a little building, and this is where all the people at the Animal Kingdom do all of their testing on the animals and some health stuff. And it's very educational. And I don't think it's been changed at all since it's been erected, so it'd be nice to kind of switch some things up. So we've decided to attack this as one of the things that we want to look at to be rethemed.
Yeah, I really think that some sprucing up could happen back there. But did you know, Mikhailo, that every time you share the show, an angel gets its wings?
Really? I did not
Yeah.
know that.
Yes. So please continue to share the show and help those angels out. Conservation Station. Like, I feel like this is a place that is necessary to the park, not only medically for the animals, but I feel like it kind of meets the mission of the resort overall. You know, it brings that edutainment into it. Um, but it kind of just feels like a glorified petting zoo at this point. And that
Yeah,
bothers me.
yeah, I kind of agree with that. I've only ever been to this area once. Um, and I have good memories about it. It was a lot of fun, but still, it's just not ever something that really pulls me in and like something that I have to do each time I'm in the park. Kristen and I haven't even been to this area yet, and we've been to the parks several times now together. So, but yeah, I would agree that it's very necessary in what it does. Also, I've always kind of wondered if Disney actually gets tax breaks from the fact that they're doing um like health work on animals and conservation stuff. Um I wonder if that's kind of a part of like, I don't know, like some tax stuff that they do if they get like either donations or like a huge tax break for it. Because I mean that would make sense if they're doing like that kind of work back there with animals. I wonder if that kind of like qualifies them for certain tax breaks.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up. So, one of the biggest things that Disney realizes is that the biggest risk or factor against their business is the environment. So each division of the company has, kind of like an idea of a tax break in their budget where they get points put into their budget. So the more you do conservation wise, the more points you'll get within your budget. And so that, however that ends up working out money wise for them, that's what they're doing. Basically, they want to be neutral footprint on the environment at some point. Um, and there is a large push for that within the company. So to say that there's a tax break, that could possibly be a big piece of it. I could see that happening. I don't know if you've watched the Magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom series on Disney Plus, but they do conservation work through Vero Beach with the turtles, and they bring in turtles to Animal Kingdom and help them out. Or if it's not Animal Kingdom, it's over at Epcot. But they do that kind of work. They help with manatees. They help with a lot of the aquatic life that's in and around Florida, and also other wildlife in the area too. The new series actually had a great episode about a turtle that made its home right outside the borders of Animal Kingdom, and they kind of like they had a cast member that was keeping an eye on it. They secluded it, made sure no one else bothered it. And they were putting up cameras so they could observe it and all this great stuff. So, I think that there's a lot that goes into Animal Kingdom on that side of it to help them maybe offset expenses, but I'm sure it also increases expenses too. Um, so getting back to Conservation Station though, like that building is their medical facility. So maybe having that park presence around it helps number wise, that bottom line for the park, because it is very expensive to run that park. Getting back to Conservation Station though, being that it's their medical facility, it does serve a purpose to the park. And they do have that showroom where they might do some procedures. But anytime I've ever heard that talked about, it's always been get there early in the morning and you might see them finishing a procedure. So my first thing would be, let's make this more of a show. Okay? If we're going to have a showroom, let's have a showroom. Let's rate some of these procedures from G up to R. Like today's going to be PG-13 because there's going to be more blood involved. Like, let's show the world what's going on. You're showing it on the show. You're showing a lot of this stuff that you do backstage on the show. Why not let the public, let the guests see it? I would be more willing to go through the trouble of getting on that train, riding the train back there, walking all the way down that path. It can seem like a long path at times when you get off of that train and have to walk to the building. Like, it takes work to get back there. There's no payoff for that work. And I want to, like, let's see some show. Let's see some animals getting the help they need.
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a second here, and suggest that possibly that isn't a good idea because they are real animals and they are real veterinarians. Is that what those types of people are called, or are there anybody
Yeah.
above veterinarians? Yeah. But so yeah, I think that's the thing, is that if it's gonna be a show, maybe it should just be a show. Um, it's kind of like how Living with the Land is. I don't fully believe that just like everything that they have there. I mean, it's possible, but like everything that they have there is everything that they're doing. I'm sure that there's some spots somewhere else where they're like actually doing some of this growing. But I think that's the issue with that, is that if they're going to be like operate like the thing that I think about that where I would be like, oh, it'd be really cool to see this, is like if they were like operating on a lion or like a tiger, and they were like doing some sort of like procedure. The only thing is that, one, they're real animals, and two, they're real people. So you never know how these vets are going to respond to doing these procedures in front of crowds. So that may be kind of like why it hasn't been turned into something like that, and that's probably why we're only seeing these like smaller, real easy procedures in front of people. Is that like they are like these are real things that are happening. Like I don't think, like if we flipped it and said there was a, because this does happen, but like there's an area where humans were um doing health things on humans, like would that be good because like people are watching or something like that? I don't know. I just that's kind of like my take on it, is that may not be a good idea just because like it's real humans doing this. If it was kind of like a, like somebody comes out and is like, so today we're going to step you through this type of procedure, and it's like actually just a show, not like a real procedure, like I don't know. That's where my thought goes.
Okay, but I'm not saying we should do like open heart surgery out there. Like obviously that's a very stressful procedure that needs, a lot of care and everything.
Yeah.
But if we're doing an ultrasound to find a foreign object on an animal, right? Like we can do those types of things, and then we have a cast member that is explaining this stuff. Maybe the staff doesn't even know, or like they might know that there's a. And when I say let's make a show, I guess I'm being a little, um, I don't know, dramatic out of it, but like I'm not saying like we need this big production with a finale number at the end, but um, like if we're gonna do an ultrasound for a foreign object, let's see it. We have somebody there that it's fully explaining what is going on, so that the person when they walk in, they have an idea of what's about to happen and they're learning what it is, right? Like even if it's to brush a turtle's teeth, I don't even know if they have teeth, but like let's see it. Like I want to see some of that stuff. No, if there's an animal that, like a crocodile, that they've put out and there's a chance it could wake up and bite someone's head off, no, I don't want that to happen. Like we that's not something that we need done. But I
That already
understand
happens
your,
on Disney property anyway, so.
well, okay. But I mean, I just watched some video on the Wild Africa trek that's done, kind of as a tour through the safari, through the savannah that the safari goes through. And you actually walk a bridge over the top of where the hippos are, over the top of where the alligators are. Like if we can do that, we can do some procedures and let people see what's going on. Now I don't want to dwell on that too much because I've got plenty of other ideas and I'm sure you do too. But that's just kind of one thing that I was thinking about.
Yeah, the only thing I think of is that going to get people to go back there? Because if that's, I mean, I don't know that that's what's already happening, but from my understanding, that's like kind of what's already happening. Like they could definitely like spruce it up a little bit and advertise it a little bit more, but it's like, I don't know, for me, even if I heard that like, oh, they're doing procedures and I showed up and it was like an ultrasound, I may not be. I mean, Kristen would probably be into it, but I don't know if that would pull me back there. So that's kind of where this whole retheming and reimagining thing um, comes into play, where it's like, what can we put back there that's really gonna pull people back there? That's what are we gonna put back there that gets people on the train?
And that's a lot what I was thinking too. Like, okay, so this is something that they have that I'd like to see spruced up a little bit as far as the procedures that happen. But furthermore, I was having a conversation with Tammy earlier today about this, and one of the things that we agreed upon was they should do more with characters. Bring, like, so they've advertised already that Moana is going to be showing up there around April 22nd within Animal Kingdom. They haven't said where or in what capacity, but that she would be doing meet and greets. Why not put her back there? That'll get people on the train, right? And it'll show people something that, because when you walk past that train station, you don't know what that is. You don't know what's going on. It just says, like, what's that wood sign say? Even it doesn't say like take this to Conservation Station. It's something weird.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can't. Yeah, I wish I could remember what that said. But um, like if I knew that I had to go back there to see Moana, you're darn right. Every little girl and boy that loves Moana is jumping on that train.
Yeah, and so the question is, do we then just put character meet and greets in there along with, like, so it's like this is the character meet and greet area. Also, they're doing tests on this animal, or like, I don't know. I like, how can we incorporate Moana into what they're doing, because I do think what they're, because the one time that I was in there, I saw cool stuff and I enjoyed what I saw. It just wasn't something that like I was super excited about. And I totally agree with you that like Moana would get people back there. Um, so I guess it's hard because you could just say like we're just gonna wall off like the animal testing part and just like let that still happen at Disney, but make this conservation station its own thing, which like wouldn't necessarily be what I would want that to be. However, again, devil's advocate, is that is what's happening there going to like pull people in there? Is that like if we changed it in a certain way, because you always want to, if you're going to plus something at Disney, like it needs to be as good or better. And so I don't know, I like to think of the Monsters Inc. for the Superstar limo, where it's like like kind of like I would say I would say the Monsters Inc. is slightly better than um Superstar limo, but it's not like a home run ride, which I don't think it was ever going to be. um but yeah, it's like how do we make this something that's better, and do we also incorporate what's still happening there?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And that was kind of our conversation too. Like, and I completely agree. If Moana is going to be back there, why is she back there? The other thing you
Mm,
have, I mean, beyond just the medical facility, is you do have a petting zoo. How can we incorporate that to make things more exciting back there? Um, another way you could do it, instead of trying to make it like every other thing with, like with the meet and greets and everything they've kind of already done. What if we try to push this more as a Disney Junior area?
hmm.
Um, like Doc McStuffins. How can we get her involved? Um, you have
Bluey.
like Bluey. There you go. Um, you have this great. It's a great petting zoo back there. What can we do to make this more toddler friendly? Because I mean, those are the kids are the ones that really love that, being able to, and Molly from Mammoth Club, but whatever. Like they love to pet those animals. And, I'm not going to run back there to pet a goat. I can do that at my local zoo. Um, but I think the kids really enjoy stuff like that. So if there's something back there, maybe speaking of show, we put some sort of Disney Junior sing along. They've got that area that they do the drawings in, which by the way is really weird that they put the animation experience back there. But because speaking of things that fit, right? That doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Other than that, they might be doing some animals from different movies. But like, what if we had some sort of dance party inside the building that doesn't bother the animals that are back there?
Mhm.
Like have the characters in the petting zoo area, maybe. Like, how can we incorporate all that together? I think that is something that could be really explored.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one because it's not like a dark ride where it's like, okay, you have a track and you have this and this happening in the dark ride. It's like there's a lot going on back there. So you can't just say like, "Oh, we're going to turn it into this," or "We're going to retheme it to this." Um so yeah, it's difficult. My first thought honestly was something like Zootopia. Like I can't think of really kind of anywhere that is like Zootopia themed. And I think that was like when that came out, like it was a decently popular movie. I don't know if it really is anymore. But yeah, I was kind of thinking, because isn't in that movie there's like a train sequence where they like take you to
Mm-hmm.
the city. So it's like maybe you're getting taken to like a Zootopia hospital, like a small Zootopia hospital, and you show up and like they kind of like they make it look like hospital, and they're teaching you things while it looks like super Zootopia themed. I don't know. That was kind of like my first thought when I thought of like retheming this to something, because I do feel like it needs to kind of be an overlay of something because of like what's happening there. Like you don't want to like really mess too much with it. Um, and so yeah, that was kind of my first thought, was like Zootopia.
Yeah. The only concern I have with using Zootopia is that it is a big IP. It is something that people are very interested in. I think there's a lot of excitement around the sequel. They're working on a Zootopia land overseas in one of the Asia parks, and that's going to be very popular. I'm pretty darn certain it's going to happen. I mean, there was a ton of excitement when they were talking that there's a possibility of Zootopia taking over Dino Land, or other areas, the beyond Big Thunder Mountain thing they talked about. Like they said, they maybe Zootopia could go back there. So my concern is that if we were to put that type of an overlay on Conservation Station, that people would feel that they cheapened on it and it's just not worth it. And maybe it'll be good for 6 months, but then beyond that, like they're just back to square one. Um, Not to say that your idea is a bad idea. Maybe it needs more than just a skin, a reskinning.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
more, add more than just that to it. As you were saying it, like having Judy Hopps or Nick Wilde like be one of the tour guides, that would be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
I just got a tour of a medical facility with Judy Hopps. Like that'd be kind of cool. Maybe maybe it needs to be more like that. Maybe there, whether it's Zootopia or Disney Junior, like have more characters involved that way. One of the
Mm-hmm.
things we came back from Disneyland with is that the characters are really cool to hang out with when you're not standing in line. And maybe that's a place that they could do that. Um, Whatever the skin over the top is, whether it's Zootopia, Disney Junior, Moana, whatever it might be, let's get some walk around characters and more interaction. I think that would be a really good way to plus things up. Again, having them out in the petting zoo, um, teaching, they could be part of teaching something. One of the times went back there, it was because Rafiki was back there meeting people, and it was the only way you could meet him. And so we did it because I thought that was a pretty cool meet and greet. That got me on the train. That got me back there. And we did that. We looked at the windows into the lab or exam rooms, and there wasn't a whole lot there for us. And we didn't want to sit and do the animation thing, or I don't even know if that was going on at the time. This was 2017. They may not have had it yet. I believe they were having people talking about snakes or something at the time,
Mm-hmm.
which I have no desire to hang out with a snake at all. Um, so anyway, like having a little more interaction with those characters would be, I think, a really good thing.
Yeah, I guess it's just so hard because these are kind of more zooey aspects of Animal Kingdom. Like the areas that aren't like super zoo centric, where like um the walkthrough areas are awesome, but like the African area, and the Everest area and all of that stuff, like Pandora, like all of these areas are really cool, but they're more theme parky. So it's hard to figure out what to do with very zoo centric type things that they have, because like you still get that feeling of a zoo when you go through there. Like when I go through like the Maharaj Jungle Trek, it's really cool and there's like a lot of cool things, but it still kind of feels zooey to me. I enjoy zoos, so I'm cool with it, but I get it that like Disney does these theme park areas really well, and the areas that thrive at Animal Kingdom are kind of those areas. So, I mean, this is a hard one because we're not Imagineers, and so I feel like this is definitely um a task for Imagineers to like really get creative. And it's like, and the sad thing is that like they did that already once with Animal Kingdom, and like when that came out in I can't remember like what, like 2004 or something. When did Animal Kingdom come out? 98.
In 98.
Okay. So yeah, like when all of that came out, it was like revolutionary and groundbreaking, and I feel like that it just hasn't been touched yet. So I mean, maybe it's there's some stuff in the works, but since then it's just kind of gotten, it just still feels very zooey to me. So it's like, how do we take these things and make it feel less like a zoo and more like you're not interacting with animals, because that's dangerous, even though you kind of do sometimes. Um, but like kind of like around animals and like learning about animals in a very like organic kind of way, because that happens a lot
Yeah.
with at Animal Kingdom, where it feels very organic how you're learning these things. So yeah, it's this is a tough one.
It is a tough one. And it's funny how you said like things were revolutionary when they first came out, and now people kind of say it's just a glorified zoo. And I get I get defensive when people say that, because it's like, no, this is Animal Kingdom. Like, this is my park, my home. You can't just go calling it a zoo and dismissing it. But what did they do to the safari? The safari had this awesome storyline where you were saving Little Red. But what did we do? We made it a safari where we just learn about what the animals do. Not to say it's bad, I still love doing it. Best thing is when those rhinos and giraffes want to stand in the trail and not let the cars go by. Um, but there was an excitement factor to it, and they took that away. You look at
Yeah.
those, you look at Maharaja Jungle Trek or the Gorilla Falls Trail, and what is it? There's zoo exhibits.
Mm-hmm.
I can walk through an aviary at my local zoo. I can look at aquariums full of different animals and amphibians in my local zoo. My local zoo is not cool enough to have hippos, but like I can go to Milwaukee and see that.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as we keep saying it's not a zoo, this is one of my parks, like they've kind of let it fall into that. And I think we need to, and maybe that this is what's coming next. Like we've done all the work on Hollywood Studios. We've added Tron, and they've started discussing a little bit more there. We're working on Splash Mountain. Um, they're about to finish up the work at Epcot. And what's next? They've kind of said they're going to take a break, but are they? Like, Animal Kingdom could really use some love at this point. This year is 25 years. Did you know that? It's 25 years since opening this year for
Yep,
Animal Kingdom.
25 years. And it's interesting because in several ways Animal Kingdom is like has some of my favorite things. Um but then also in several ways, like I am totally okay with skipping Animal Kingdom. But then in other ways I'm really not okay with skipping Animal Kingdom. So I feel like bringing the couple things that like aren't quite up to like how great Animal Kingdom is, and like bringing them up to the standard of everything else, I think would really help. But yeah, it's so interesting because I feel like, and we can talk about this in other episodes. We could probably have an entire discussion about this, but like I feel like Animal Kingdom hit that sweet spot of Imagineering and money, and not really kind of like getting held back by a lot of like the financial, because I think at that point I think they had already kind of like figured out what they were doing with Euro Disney, and they were like, okay, like we're already into this park, let's start throwing money at it. And I don't think California Adventure had come out yet, and all this stuff. So I think it hit that sweet spot where Imagineers got really good at what they were doing, and they were able to throw money at it to be so that Imagineers could do what they wanted to do. So there are several areas of this park that are just awesome, like Chef's Kiss, like these areas were themed so well, like so well.
Oh, right.
Um, so yeah, like there are a lot of times where I walk through this park and I'm like, this is amazing. Like this is such a cool park. Yet, and we've talked about this, it is a park that I would probably skip. So it's interesting to me with that. And I feel like kind of like plussing up some of these areas like Conservation Station would help with that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think I think Disney recognizes that it's a problem area too, because there have been lengthy closures of that area where they just haven't had it open, period. And I think that they've probably got some plans, some ideas in their mind of what they want to do back there. But again, it falls back to, this is a medical facility. This is definitely needed. You can't put a ride in this building.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be a facility. And like, what can you do within that building that would get people back there? And the best thing I've come up with is characters, um or this just kind of dropped into my head. They pride themselves on telling stories. What can they do back there that tells the story of what they're doing? I i i think it just goes back to telling, like, what if they used this TV show they've created, that I talked about earlier. They use this TV show to kind of bring forward that story into that building more, so that, like, you're not just sitting there and watching the show, but maybe there's something they can come up with for bits and pieces of that show that allow you to get more interaction with the animals. One of the things I love about that train ride is that you get to see backstage. You get to see where the rhinos are hanging out when they're not on stage. Like, I really like being able to see those glimpses of backstage where they let us see them. So, is there something more they could do to bring that into that building? I don't know. Because I don't know what they have beyond the walls that we see.
Yeah, it's a conundrum. Um, I don't think we are the ones. I don't think we hold the correct degrees to be figuring all of this stuff out. But it's definitely interesting to talk about, and it kind of like brings like Animal Kingdom as a whole and like what it was when it first opened and what it is now to like the forefront of this discussion of like what do we do with this area that has just been the conservation station for so long. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
So maybe this is one of those that we've kind of failed at retheming, um, just because it is such a difficult discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I think we'll just chalk this one up to yet to be determined. Um, I think more discussion, more thinking needs to happen there. And, like, I have a couple of housekeeping things that we should probably get out there quick. The first one is, last week we did trivia night, and Mikhailo, you're kind of hanging out there. Had 2 wrong. I still got to beat you at that.
Mm-hmm.
I realized after we had recorded the show that giving 1 week for our listeners to get us the questions wasn't enough, because by the time we finished the show and got it out to you and we record again, it's actually only a couple of days. So
Yeah.
we wanted to give you guys another week. Make sure you get those questions to us. Any trivia questions you have, send them in and we'll use them on the show. I am the one, well, we'll both be answering some of them, but just get them to us and we'll use them. I promise you that the other person's not going to know the answer when the question is asked. I've been fighting on that one with myself as well. But beyond that, as far as Conservation Station goes, we would love to hear what your thoughts are. Let's keep this conversation going. Join us out in the Facebook community, or come out to Instagram where we are active out there and let us know your thoughts. That's at Miles from Main Street. You can find links within the show notes.
Yeah, I thought this one was a good one, and we talked through some heavy stuff, and it was fun. But like we always say, some live close,
but others don't.
So let's talk about it. We'll see you next time on Miles from Main Street.